What's happening, YouTube? This is Bryan916. Thanks for tuning in, and as always, guys, welcome back to the channel. So behind me, I got a couple of cylinder heads that I'm going through, checking out, making sure that they're good before I bolt it on to the engine. Typically, whenever you tear an engine down, it's quite a bit of work depending on the vehicle that you're working on. So you want to make sure the cylinder head is in good shape. You don't want to just throw a gasket on there and bolt it down and hope everything is good for the machine shop. You want to go through several steps to make sure that the machine shop did a decent job. If they didn't do a good job, you'll end up having to pull the cylinder head back off if you have a misfire or if the vehicle is still overheating or anything like that. And that's a lot of wasted time, labor, and money, considering you'll have to tear it back down and buy another head gasket set in most cases. So there's several checks that you want to do before you bolt the cylinder head back on. And in my case, I went through some checks and I found a couple things wrong with these heads that I picked up for the machine shop. So let me okay guys, so these are the two cylinder heads that I picked up from the machine shop a couple days ago, and now I'm getting ready to put this engine back together. But as I stated, I like to go through and check a few things out before I just bolt the head back on, because I have in the past had to take an engine back apart due to some machine shop failure. So I learned the hard way to always check and make sure that everything that they did is correct. So I sent this cylinder head off to the machine shop due to the head being warped from an overheating issue. This is the gasket that I took off, so you can see we were dealing with a severe overheating issue. The gasket popped, and it also melted this gasket pretty bad. So there was definitely some warpage in the cylinder. Because this engine has north of 100,000 miles on it, I wanted them to vacuum test the valves, of course, and if any valves were sealing correctly, to go ahead and do a valve job on it, because we already got it torn down this much, and now is the time to do that. So the first thing I like to do when I get the cylinder head back from the machine shop is I like, if it's like a dual overhead cam like this particular head, I like to take a look at the bearing caps and make sure that all my bearing caps are back in the correct order and that they didn't get all mixed around. So when you tear the engine down, make good note of the orientation if they're not marked. These happen to be marked, but in the past I have gotten my cylinder head back with all the caps mixed around, even though there are markings on here. So that's the first thing I like to do on any type of DOHC motor or overhead cam motor with bearing caps like this. Make sure all your bearing caps are facing the right way and that they're in the right order. Second thing you want to check for is to make sure that the sealing surface is 100% flat. Just because it has a shiny bottom on it doesn't mean that it's 100% flat. So you want to take a straight edge on it and make sure that it is within spec. What I like to do is I usually put a light behind there and see if there's any light coming through. And wherever I see light coming through, then I'll grab a filler gauge and see what size filler gauge I could get through there. So that just sort of speeds the process up. If you could get light shining through, then go ahead and grab a filler gauge and see what size filler gauge you could get in there. So the next step, guys, is of course you want to check the valves out. Make sure that the valves are sealing. It's stupid to do this much work and then put the cylinder head back on and you have valves that aren't 100% sealed. Now will be the time to go ahead and do that stuff. So on this particular head, I haven't got to this one yet in my inspection process, but I stopped right here because this particular head right here, we still got valves that are leaking. Alright guys, so I basically just took a little bit of soap like this and sprayed it on here and checked for bubbles. So we can see This thing needs a valve job. So pretty much all these valves are leaking. I think the only one that's not leaking is this very bottom valve. But the one just above it, I believe is leaking. You guys can see there's no cams in this head right now. I got the cams out sitting over here, so there should be zero force pressing on these valves, and these valves should be 100% sealed. So you want to go through and definitely check out all the valves, make sure that the valves are sealing. Also, you could pull a valve follower out and look inside and make sure that the valve stem tip looks good, and you also want to check inside the valve follower and make sure there's no excessive wear in there as well. So you want to do those checks. So if you guys do find problems with your cylinder head like I did, you definitely want to take it back to the machine shop, or maybe even take it to a different machine shop. In this case, I'm not going to take it back to the machine shop that we just came from. I mean, obviously, you see how it came back, so why would I take it back? So I'm going to take it to my regular guy and have him go ahead and take care of it. Okay guys, well I hope you liked the little tip that I have for you. Hopefully this information helps somebody out in the future. You never want to just bolt the cylinder head down directly. You want to do as many checks on your own as you can to make sure that the cylinder head is suitable to go back on the engine block. Just as much preparation went into preparing the block, getting it nice and clean for the cylinder head to go on. So you want to make sure that you cover all bases, including the cylinder. I'm going to share some footage with you guys from probably like 7 or 8 years ago. This happened to be on a cylinder head that actually had a valve job done that was still leaking. And so I'm going to run this footage. And this,
you know, as you know, it struck the piston. This is what we've been having problems on. And I'm still having problems. I just got it back from the shop today, and it's still leaking. I'm gonna
look at this number one. You gotta notice it's dripping. Look at that, it's leaking all the carb cleaner out. So I'm not putting this head on yet until they fix it, or I'm thinking we're just gonna have to get a new one because, you know, I don't know what's going on with these guys. But
coming out like right around here. Just pouring out.
So that was a little bit of footage that I actually made for a customer who was wondering what was taking so long, because I had to go back to that same machine shop 3 different times because they refused to believe anything was wrong with the head. So then that made me delay on getting the customer's vehicle back. So I ended up shooting that footage and sending it to the customer, and end up having to show that footage to the machine shop so that they'd finally actually double check the work, because I would drop the head off, they wouldn't do anything, pretend they did something, and then, you know, just have me come back and pick it up. I would run the same test, get the same results. So I ended up having to show them that footage just to get somewhere. Guys, hopefully this information helps somebody out. Like I stated, I'm gonna go ahead and pack these heads up and go and drop them off and have a valve job done. So anyway, this is Bryan916. Thanks for tuning in. See you on the next one. Well, I'm in America's favorite store right now. While I'm in here, I'm about to show you guys the best, cheapest sockets you can buy. And many of you guys probably already know which sockets I'm talking about. So I'm here to pick up a gift card for a buddy of mine that's having a baby. And while I'm here, I thought I'd show you guys the best, cheapest sockets on the market are these Stanleys right here for $18.74. I actually bought this set right here some years ago. I had got quite a bit of my tools stolen and ended up having to just, get anything just to get going again. And I came to Walmart and Sears and Harbor Freight and just bought a bunch of stuff. And it lasted me a really long time. I ended up just keeping this set and using it at home. And, just over the course of time, just didn't really need these anymore. Put a lot of tools on Craigslist and sort of to make room in my garage and just get rid of stuff I wasn't using. But I used these cheap Stanley sockets for a really long time. Both of these sets right here in metric. I had this 1/2 inch and this 3/8 deep for a really long time. Like I stated, all of my tools got stolen, and so I had to go to anywhere to just try to get a set together. So I went to Walmart, Harbor Freight, Sears, threw together a kit, so I could keep working. And these cheap Stanley sockets are some really good sockets, man, for 18 bucks. So if anybody out there is looking for a cheap socket set, come to Walmart, man, and pick up this Stanley socket set. They're really good sockets. I don't know about anything else, but I know the sockets are really good.